Hello and welcome to the Dream Team Professor podcast. My name is Scott, and in this episode we're going to be looking at the top players to target in game week 12 on Sun Dream Team. I'll then just be following up with my team update and transfer plans. So we'll start as always with the fixture ticker from ffstuff.co.uk. Here I've got game week 12 all the way through to game week 14. Game week 12 is a single game week, and then it's followed by another boring international break. So again, another break from fantasy football, which we never like to see. So game week 12, international break. Then when we're back, we've got game week 13, which is a double game week of Premier League and European action. And then game week 14 is a Premier League double game week, which might be one that's looking quite popular for some boosters to be played. Part the Bus and possibly some of the others. But that's further down the line. There's just two more European fixtures as well. Champions League, Europa League Conference. Just two more group games left. So we could potentially start to look at teams that don't have European football. The likes of Crystal Palace maybe, or Spurs. Might start to come back into play a little bit more, especially with that game week 14 double game week for the Premier League. But we're going to look at this for game week 12 first as the single week, and then we'll just look a little bit longer term, looking at each team and what would be the best players to target from each. So again, this is the fixture ticker from ffstuff.co.uk. You can have a look at that. It's a free website. Then what you can do on it as well is you can tick the teams you want to narrow it down to. I've narrowed this list to City, United, Arsenal, Liverpool, Newcastle, Villa, Chelsea, Brighton, Spurs, West Ham and Palace. And they are the teams that we're going to be covering in this episode. Pretty much good singles for most of the popular teams as well this week. So City face Chelsea, which is probably the most difficult clash. But then Man United have Luton, which is a great fixture. United aren't looking great, but then Luton, you're going to want to have the likes of Bruno, who's had a really good week. And even defensively, are you going to want to take out your defenders against Luton? It's a tough one. Arsenal have got Burnley. Arsenal's home form is brilliant. Burnley have been terrible. Liverpool, home to Brentford, again, looks okay. Newcastle have got Bournemouth, whose defensive record's really poor. Villa at home to Fulham. Villa have been really great at home. Chelsea City's obviously a difficult one. Brighton, Sheffield United, another really good fixture. Spurs have got Wolves, but they have got a few injury problems at the minute. West Ham face Forest, which looks good on paper, but actually Forest's form's been okay. And then Crystal Palace are at home to Everton. Crystal Palace's defence has been quite good. And you've got Eze coming back now as well from injury, so they might be on the up again. So there are a lot of really good single game week fixtures to target this week. I'm going to say that United's, reluctantly, is probably the best fixture on paper against Luton. I think Arsenal's Burnley fixture at home is a brilliant one to target. City, I mean, you can't write them off against anyone. Chelsea did look good against Spurs, but 9 men, I think City are still going to be great to target. Brighton are a bit up and down, but Sheffield United looks good. Liverpool, Newcastle and Villa, I think all should be okay as well. The tougher ones really are Spurs, Chelsea and West Ham. So we'll break them down one by one. I'm going to start with my team, Arsenal. I went to see the Arsenal game against Sevilla in midweek, and it was just dominance. Just a really, really good performance from Arsenal. A really solid win. I've been quite lucky, really. The last two games I've been to with Arsenal was Sheffield United and Sevilla, and both games the opponents just offered nothing. It was really quite surprising from Sevilla. But Arsenal really good defensively of late. I wasn't there for the Dream Team Tonic podcast last week. Had a bit of issue with the storm damaging my house, so I couldn't make that podcast. But I would have loved to react to the Newcastle defeat, because I thought Arsenal did really, really well in that game. And yeah, I didn't think the goal should have counted. I know there were a lot of reasons potentially why, but I do think it was a foul on Gabriel. So I think defensively, overall, Arsenal were good in that Newcastle game. They were good in the Sevilla game. The West Ham game was a bit of a write-off, a lot of rotation and a poor game in general. But other than that, I think Arsenal have looked really good defensively, and the fixture run looks really good for defence. Burnley, Brentford, Lons, Wolves, Luton. All of those fixtures through to game week 14 look really, really good for defence. I think we're going to start targeting Arsenal defenders. Gets a bit tougher after that in game week 15. Villa, PSV Eindhoven, Brighton, Liverpool, and then West Ham again. But for now, I do think that this Arsenal defence is going to be really, really good to target. I just think overall, the reason why is it just seems like Arsenal have maybe sacrificed a little bit of attacking excitement and creativity going forward for a lot more of possession and control of games, and it seems to be working out quite well for the defence. So I will be targeting the defenders, but we'll start off with Saka. He did limp off after about 85 minutes. From what I saw, I wasn't concerned really, and it didn't really seem like many people at the game were that concerned. He was getting a kick in all game. Was fouled about 5 times, which I think contributed to him getting so many bonus points in this game as well, or the bonus points. But I think you've got to have him in your team. He had a really good performance. He's on 6 goals and 8 assists for the season. He's the highest player for bonus in the game now at the time of writing, which was 22 bonus points. He managed 5 bonus points in that Newcastle loss, and I do think it's partly because of the dribbles, but it's also because he is fouled so many times. Fouls against or fouls you've received boost up your player performance marks. So I think he's doing quite well for that. Goal and an assist against Sevilla. And even in games where he just isn't looking amazing. The star of the show was Martinelli in that Sevilla game. But everything Saka seems to do results in points at the minute. So I think you have to have him in your team. And one last thing as well with Saka now. We started with Trossard up front in that game. I thought it might have been Havertz, but Havertz played right centre mid where Odegaard would usually play. It was Saka, Trossard and Martinelli up front, and Trossard's link-up play with Martinelli and Saka was just so much better than what Eddie Nketiah's has been. And I saw a stat that Saka has assisted all 6 of Leandro Trossard's goals for Arsenal. So obviously there is a good partnership there, and if Saka does start up top with Trossard and Martinelli again for that Burnley game, I can see him doing really, really well. I mentioned Martinelli, 4.3 million. He got 5 bonus points against Sevilla, maximum points, and I really did start to feel sorry for that fullback in the end. He had him on toast all game, was blitzing past him, and it was a really, really impressive and confident performance from Martinelli, and I see him doing really well in this run of games. Especially Trossard is usually the guy that might provide some sort of rotation risk for Martinelli, at least maybe going off in like the 70th or something like that. But if Trossard is starting up front, I think Martinelli is pretty safe for minutes in both fixtures in double game weeks. So I think that he's a really good pick for this Burnley game. The link up just looks so much better if Trossard stays striker. Saliba, 3.6 million. I think he's the clear and obvious pick to go for from the Arsenal defence. He's averaging 4.7 points per game. He is capped at around 7 or 8 points, depending whether or not he gets that bonus point. He seems to get 7 points if he gets the clean sheet, or if he gets the additional bonus point, it normally seems to go to about 8 points. So it is capped at that. He's not really getting the attacking returns. He doesn't always get a ton of tackle points or anything like that. But it's mostly this fixture run and the clean sheet points we're looking at. Burnley at home, I see a clean sheet. Brentford away is always tough. Lons at home, Wolves at home, I think could both be clean sheets. We do just look so dominant at home. And then Luton away, obviously that is a tough away ground to go to, but you'd still have to fancy it. So I do see quite a few clean sheets for Arsenal in this run, and I think Saliba is the guy you want to go for. Also, one thing to say is out of the next 5, 3 of them are at home, so I think that does look good. Gabriel is the other option. He's more expensive. I wouldn't go for Gabriel. It seems like, I think he was rested recently for Kivior, and I think that was due to the international break. He played like 2 lots of 90 minutes for Brazil, whereas Saliba, for some reason, Marcel Desailly doesn't really fancy him in the team, which is bizarre to me. So it seems like Gabriel is probably going need the rest after international break more than what Saliba will, which is also why I think that Ben White is probably the second best option, because obviously Southgate hates Ben White for whatever reason. Was kicked out of the World Cup squad, wasn't it, or World Cup squad, and now doesn't play in the international. So Ben White gets a rest after Burnley. He'll have the rest for the international break, and he'll come back for game week 13 with not very much chance of rotation, I think. So I think Ben White's probably the second best option, and I would even consider doubling up potentially for this run if your budget does work out for it. He's also the second highest scoring defender on the game at 4.3 million. On to Liverpool then. So, not an ideal week, or not the week that most of us were expecting for Liverpool. Salah not really done as well as we would have expected. They didn't keep the clean sheet against Luton, and the Toulouse game wasn't straightforward in the end, so it can throw up some surprises this game. They started with a front three of Salah, Nunez and Jota for the Luton game, and Diaz came off the bench to grab a goal. And then in the Europa League game, it was Doak, Gakpo and then Diaz as the front three for Toulouse, with Jota coming off the bench and scoring. So both people off the bench scoring goals. I think we'll see Salah, Nunez and Jota again for this Brentford game. But Diaz, his personal troubles seem to have been resolved now. So there is a good chance that maybe Diaz starts ahead of Jota perhaps. But Salah, I think, is the obvious pick. This run does look good. So Brentford at home, it is a good fixture. Gets a bit tougher in 13 because there's that Man City away game. LASK in the Europa League after that. But then it still looks good. 14, Fulham, Sheffield United, really good fixtures. Crystal Palace, Union Saint-Gilloise in 15. Game week 16, a double with Man United and West Ham in the Carabao Cup. And then Arsenal, Burnley. So for the attackers, I still think this run does look really, really good. And Salah's the obvious one. It was a poor week. 4 points at Luton. 1 point against Toulouse. But I've learnt the hard way so many times playing Dream Team that you take one of these big strikers out after a quiet week, they can still punish you the following week. We've seen it with Haaland already this season. I made the mistake with Son earlier in the season, him grabbing a hat-trick. I've made this mistake plenty of times with Kane and Salah last year. I just think sometimes with these top strikers like Salah, you just hold them. You accept you've had a bad week, and he could very much deliver in that Brentford game. So I still think the fixtures are good going forward, and I would keep Salah in my team. He's the third highest scoring player on the game. 10 goals, 4 assists from 16 appearances. So I'd still be having Salah in my team. And I'd still even be looking to target. Nunez, on the other hand, 4.4 million. He got the big chances against Luton, but he just didn't take them. 5 points with 3 shots on target. But that is what you sign up for with Darwin Nunez if you put him up front. I still think he's a good option. I still think he was a good option as well. But you just have to accept with him, he misses a ton of chances, but he still grabs the goals and assists. So I think that Nunez is still an okay pick. I might not specifically bring him in for this game, but if I did have him, I probably would hold on to him for now. Trent at 5.5 million. He's probably the only defender we'd sort of look at for concrete games, because the Tsimikas thing just kind of didn't work out this week. He has been pretty good so far, but Tsimikas didn't start the Luton game, which I know I brought him in for that Luton game really, and he didn't start it. I think Gomez started at left back. They didn't keep the clean sheet anyway, so it doesn't really matter too much, but yeah, disappointing for Tsimikas. Trent, on the other hand, he is going to start this Brentford game. I think he came off the bench in the Toulouse game. I think Gomez started right back, Tsimikas started left back. But then you look at this, you think game week 12 is a good one. Game week 13 is Trent's probably going to play the City game and not the Europa League game. So really, game week 14, Fulham home, Sheffield United away is the only one that I really, really want Liverpool defenders for now, which has been a bit of a turn of events, really. So I still think Trent's a good option. I think Virgil van Dijk is also a good option, but could maybe you wait out till game week 14 now if you don't have them, because the City game, I can't see a clean sheet. I don't think the Brentford one is amazing for a clean sheet. So game week 14 does look like the one to target, with Fulham at home, Sheffield United away in a Premier League double. And I think a lot of people will be looking at that for the Park the Bus booster, because you'd hope there's a lot less rotation in those games. I mentioned Tsimikas. Yeah, I have got concerns now. I am probably going to hold him anyway for this Brentford game, but he didn't play Luton. He came off the bench and I don't think he got anything. Maybe the 1 point. What did he get? Tsimikas, 1 point coming off the bench at Luton. And then he started to lose, but obviously they conceded a load of goals and he got dragged at half time. And I think Joe Gomez moved over to the left. And actually Joe Gomez has looked probably a little bit better. I even might say that Joe Gomez has moved ahead of Tsimikas in the pecking order for that defensive role. So I'm not convinced about Tsimikas. I'm not convinced that he starts now this game week 12, which is annoying because I did think he was a really good pick. But these things happen. I think I'm still going to hold, but I think by game week 13, when that City game arrives, I'm going to look to get him out of my team. But yeah, that's it. I think for Liverpool, just that Tsimikas mistake has given me a bit to think about. I think he has fallen down the pecking order. Right, on to Manchester City then. So it's been a really impressive run for City since that Arsenal defeat. They've beat Brighton, they've beat Young Boys twice, they smashed United and they smashed Bournemouth. And I can see them going on one of these runs that we're used to. They have got tough fixtures coming up. Chelsea away, Liverpool home, Leipzig home, Tottenham away. But Liverpool, Leipzig, Tottenham, all home fixtures. Liverpool looking not so great after this week. Still a great side. Leipzig probably looks okay at home. They're already through. And then City already through, I mean. And then Spurs have got a lot of injuries, a lot of suspensions and stuff. It's starting to dip a little bit for Spurs. So I still think City will be perfectly fine through this run. Then they've got Villa, Luton, Red Star Belgrade, Crystal Palace and Everton. The fixtures do look good for them and they're looking impressive. So I think they're still going to be a good one to target. 4 games in a row, they've scored 3 or more goals. So the goals are flowing. Yeah, I do really fancy them. Haaland, 7.6. I think at the start of the season, I wasn't going to mention him on every episode, but it was just because he had that little dip and now he's came back massively. He gave us a little bit of an injury scare going off early in that first fixture. But then he was back with 2 goals in the Champions League, which was horrible for Alvarez owners because you kind of thought Haaland's got off. He's injured, he'll probably miss the Champions League game and Alvarez will start. But no, Haaland started that one and Alvarez did not play. For Haaland, it's 15 goals, 3 assists in 15 games. Ridiculous. I think you've got to have him. And although it's a tough fixture and there's plenty of other good captaincy options, I think that Haaland's probably going to be my captain pick, even against Chelsea away. Alvarez at 4.6, he has dipped in form. I don't think you could write him off though, but the scores recently have been a did not play, a 2-pointer, a 3-pointer, a 2-pointer, 9 points and 2 points, which is a little bit concerning and a bit underwhelming considering there's a lot of players around that price point that are doing well. Darwin, Watkins, for example, and quite a lot of midfielders too. One thing that is concerning is after this Chelsea game, there's another international break and Alvarez does seem like one of those players that does kind of suffer after the international breaks because he plays a lot of minutes and these South American teams have quite a big, quite a long way to travel and quite a short turnaround time. So hopefully he doesn't end up getting dropped for one of these games. But yeah, there's just a few question marks around Alvarez in my head at the minute. Doku at 3.9. Huge 21-pointer against Bournemouth. So really impressive if you had him in your team. That was just a ridiculous performance. A goal and 4 assists, 3 bonus points. And he got 20 bonus points so far for the season, which is just 2 behind Saka and 1 behind Maddison. He's been very, very impressive. And it is these dribbles, I think. These dribbles, the fouls that these sort of attacking, what do you call them? Players that complete a lot of dribbles tend to get fouled quite a lot. And this seems to contribute to the bonus, I think, quite a lot. And Doku does seem like a really good pick. But like all City midfielders, there are no guarantees of starts. I think you're safe when it comes to a double game week to say that you're going to get one of the two fixtures. But in these singles, I think it is pretty much a flip of a coin. They've got a lot of good options. They've got Foden, Grealish, Bernardo's playing well again now. It is a tough one. I don't know if I would bring him in ahead of the Chelsea game. I don't think he's a bad pick. And if you do pick him, he's going to tick along nicely in these double game weeks. This is just the odd single. We've got quite a few double game weeks coming up. I do think he's a good pick, but you've just got to be willing to accept that you are going to get the odd benching or the odd sub appearance. 3 goals, 6 assists in total. And even if he does come off the bench, he can return. I think he got like, I think it was like 3 points or something in just 10 minutes the other day when he did come off the bench. Let's have a look. When he came off, so he got that 21 pointer against Bournemouth. And then in game week 11 against Young Boys, he came off the bench to play 10 minutes and he still racked up 1 bonus point and a shot on target point. So he can easily deliver even if he doesn't start. Bernardo Silva is another one. Obviously the same applies. He's doing really well. He's got 15 points against Bournemouth. He didn't play against Young Boys, but then got 10 points against United. At 3.6 million, it's a good price point. I'm not a massive fan of the pick just because of the same reason with Doku. I don't think you can guarantee double game weeks. But one thing I would say, with the fixture run looking quite tough for City, Chelsea, Liverpool, Leipzig, Spurs, maybe not Leipzig because they're practically through already, but Chelsea, Liverpool, Spurs, Villa, all really tough games. I think Pep does really trust Bernardo in these tough fixtures. And I do think we'll probably see him get quite a few minutes, maybe even more than Doku in this run. Defensively, City just keep conceding that odd goal. It is frustrating if you have these City defenders. Stones is now out injured. I think that's longer term. Akanji's doubtful. He picked up an injury or back injury, I think right before that Young Boys game. So for that reason, I think Walker at 3.5 still, to me, feels like the only one that really makes sense. 3.5, the price point's right. He doesn't seem to be getting rotated that much. Probably misses that Champions League game, but I reckon he'll be played for all of the others. They're going to need him to deal with Son. They're going to need him to deal with, for Liverpool, it'll be like Diaz probably. And even Chelsea, they've got pacey wingers, maybe Mudryk. They're going to need Walker's pace in these ones. So I see Walker getting a lot of minutes. He's probably the best pick. I just don't think it's worth splashing out one of these City defenders that are 4 million plus. They get rotated 1 in 2. I just don't think it's worth it when they're conceding the odd goal. So I think if you're going to do it, do Walker. If you enjoyed the video so far, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel for all the latest Sun Dream Team content. And head over to the Dream Team Tonic podcast to catch their latest episode. Unfortunately, I couldn't make this one, but listened back and it was still a banger. So do check that one out. Link in the description below. And we'll have a special guest on the next one. Fergie from Fantasy Football Hub will be on that one as well. So do subscribe. Do check out the link in the description below. Manchester United. Where do we start with you? So Fulham was a tightly contested game. And then won late on by Bruno Fernandes with a strike. And I think a lot of people in the same boat as me. I didn't take out Bruno last week. I think I did it the week before. He'd just been a frustrating hold. But I did say after I took him out, I can see myself bringing him back in soon. We just need them to pick up a bit of form. I don't think we can really say that Man United have picked up a bit of form, but Bruno Fernandes certainly did this week. 5.5, he grabbed the goal against Fulham, and then Fernandes grabbed a goal against Copenhagen as well. Calling him that, but we haven't seen that many penalties for United this season. 21 points this game week in game week 11. And he's now the third highest scoring midfielder in the game with 95 points, joint with Phil Foden. So it's amazing how quickly this can change. He's gone from underwhelming to one of the top midfielders now, and he's not even that far behind. So that is how quickly things can change in fantasy football. Goal against Fulham, penalty goal against Copenhagen, and he actually got 5 shots on target combined over those 2 games as well. So I've done a little bit of digging into the stats, and although he hasn't got many bonus points, it is the additional things he gets the points for. So he has the most shots on target out of any midfielder with 18. He has the most big chances created of any midfielder with 9. And he even has the 4th most tackles of any midfielder with 37, which is also quite impressive when you consider the guys that are in front of him are pretty much defensive midfielders who you would expect to have a lot of tackles. I'll bring it up here again just so I can double check it. So Paqueta has actually overtaken him after yesterday's game, but before that he had Palhinha, Garner and Nakamba ahead of him for tackles. Paqueta has gone up after yesterday. I think Paqueta got like 5 tackles yesterday, 7 tackles yesterday. But Bruno Fernandes is picking up tackle points, he's picking up shot on target points, and then when he does finally get these goals, he is hauling with 2 double-digit returns last week. Højlund, 3.7 million. Oh, sorry, back to Bruno though. What I was going to say is he's going to go back up in price, and then he's got Luton, which you'd have to expect he does well in. And I'm a bit worried that if he gets this price increase this week, and then I don't bring him in for Luton, and he ends up doing well and gets another price increase, it doesn't take much for these players to sort of start to get ahead of you. So I would seriously consider bringing in Bruno. But back to Højlund, 15 points against Copenhagen with 2 goals and 3 shots on target. I don't think he has a Premier League goal yet. I think a lot of his goals have all been in the Champions League so far. I just don't think I've seen enough to justify picking him. Probably is okay for the price. But yeah, I just think there's too many other good options at striker at the minute. So just had to bring attention to 15 points, 2 goals, 3 shots on target. But I just don't think I'll be going there at the moment. And then defensively for United, if it wasn't for this Luton home game next, I think a lot of us would be considering binning our United defenders. And potentially still even will, depending on who you want to go for. But yeah, it's been a really poor showing for United at the back recently. Obviously did get that clean sheet against Fulham, which was okay. I have Dalot in my team. But then, yeah, that Copenhagen game was so disappointing at the back. So, yeah, it's a tough one, but maybe you hold on for Luton. But after that, game week 13 is okay. Everton, Galatasaray away, but Everton away is not a great fixture. And then Galatasaray, that's going to be a tough away fixture too. And then it gets even tougher. Newcastle, Chelsea, Bournemouth, Bayern, Liverpool. Yeah, I'd start to move away from Man United defenders personally. I think you might be alright with Onana, but that's about it. Aston Villa, defensive troubles is the first thing that comes to mind for me, because a lot of us had Aston Villa defenders, but they've had, well, it was 7 games since their last clean sheet now, which is disappointing. Obviously, a lot of us have got Matty Cash, who gets attacking returns. We've got Konsa, who gets bonus points. But we were really hoping in this previous run that they could get the clean sheet points as well. And they just keep conceding that odd goal, which is really annoying. The one against, was it Luton, where Konsa headed it against the crossbar and it hit Martinez and went in. And then you had Martinez had a blunder against Forest as well. Yeah, defence has been a bit worrying. But you could look at that either they're not good in defence, they don't keep clean sheets, or they're just 1 goal away each time and they're coming. But the fixtures start to get tough now. I think we've missed the good fixture run for defence. They've got Fulham next at home, which is probably the last good home defensive fixture. But then I think it gets a bit tough. Spurs away in 13. You've got City at home in 14. You've got Arsenal in 15. So I think this is probably last chance for Villa defenders as well. I'll go to Ollie Watkins at 4.7. Game week 10, got 5 points against Luton. And then in game week 11, the first Premier League fixture, he got 3 points against Forest. I was getting frustrated. I was watching some of that Aston Villa game last night and Watkins wasn't really doing anything. And I was starting to think, do I take him out? But Fulham at home looks nice. It was starting to cross my mind until he got that goal. 9-pointer in the end. And now Fulham at home is looking like a good keep. So I'm going to keep Watkins in my team. I think we've seen enough to hold. He's got 7 goals, 8 assists, 101 points. And their home form has been so good. So I don't think you want to take him out ahead of that Fulham game in game week 12. As it gets a bit tougher later on, maybe you can consider it. But at the minute, he's the 3rd highest scoring striker with 101 points. And he's right behind Alvarez, who's got 103. So, yeah, I think he's a really good pick still at the minute. I mentioned defence. It feels like a hold just for this Fulham game. You had Matty Cash, who picked up a shoulder injury in the last game, but came off the bench in that AZ Alkmaar game. So I don't think he would have been on the bench or even come off the bench if he was any sort of doubt. So I think he probably starts Fulham. So he's probably fine to hold. And then Konsa as well, perfectly fine to hold. Still gets those bonus points and Fulham looks good. But like I said, I just feel like we probably missed the purple patch for Villa defenders, and it starts to get a bit tougher now. So I think we probably keep for Fulham, and then either reconsider or bring it down to 1 if you had multiple for the result for the fixtures going forward. I think personally. Then on to Brighton. Then so the fixtures look great. The squad's looking a bit bare. And we probably expected a little bit better from the recent games. So 1-1 against Fulham and also 1-1 against Everton, which I think looked like good fixtures on paper really. So disappointing there. They did beat Ajax 2-0 at home and away now. So 2 good games against Ajax, but Ajax are having a bad season themselves. But the fixture run does look good going forward. So Sheffield United at home, game week 12, is about as good as it gets. Nottingham Forest away, Athens away, Chelsea away, Brentford at home, Burnley home, Marseille at home, Arsenal away, Crystal Palace away, and then Spurs in game week 17. So I think short term the fixtures look pretty good, but the pool that we can choose from is looking quite a bit smaller at the minute. So Adingra and Ansu Fati both got a goal and an assist against Ajax, got 12 points each. I think Adingra has been the one that's looking the best one to target at the minute. So he's playing in both the Premier League and Europa League. He's 2.5 million. He's got 3 goals and 3 assists this season. And I feel like he feels pretty safe just while March is out. But I don't think anyone's really safe under De Zerbi. So 2.5 million, I think is a decent shout, especially for this Sheffield United game. You've got Matoma at 4 million. He's disappointed really. 2 points against Ajax, 4 points against Everton. Not what we would have expected really, but I still don't think you'd get rid of him before Sheffield United if you've got him already. That is a prime fixture really. He's on 3 goals, 5 assists for the season. But Adingra and Matoma are probably the only 2 I'd look to target. Big defensive worries now because they haven't really been keeping that many clean sheets. I know they've just kept one against Ajax. And the last one they kept was Ajax. But Dunk went off injured at half-time against Ajax. And then we were saying that keep an eye on Estupiñán because he's going to be returning soon. But it looks like he returned too soon because he came off the bench against Ajax and then went off injured again. So with Dunk and Estupiñán now out, it really doesn't look great. So I wouldn't really be looking to target these Brighton defenders. Newcastle, obviously a great dubious win against Arsenal in that game. The only silver lining for me was that I had Anthony Gordon, but I still wasn't particularly impressed. I didn't expect them to keep a clean sheet against Arsenal though, so fair play in that one. Newcastle defenders did well there, but then it was a poor showing against Dortmund. I think maybe the Arsenal fixture before it sort of took a lot out of them. they're bottom of their Champions League group now, and their injury troubles are mounting. So I think, despite their previous good results, I do feel like this could be a bit of a make or break time for Newcastle. They've got a lot of injuries. They're not doing very well in this Champions League group. And the fixtures are starting to look a bit tough. So Bournemouth in Game Week 12 looks good. You can't deny that. Game Week 13, Chelsea, PSG. Now, Chelsea haven't been great, but their form is improving. And then PSG is always going to be tough away. 14 is Man United, Everton. 15 is Spurs, Milan. So again, it's just starting to look a bit difficult here. And they're without a lot of their top players. So Dan Burn picked up a back injury against Arsenal, which could open up a space for either Livramento or Hall to take his place. I think Hall played left back against Dortmund, and then Livramento sort of played right wing. But yeah, there could be a bargain to be had there. But now, when you're looking at it, and their typical solid defensive lineup was Trippier, Shaw, Botman, Burn. But now they're without Burn. They're potentially still without Botman, I believe. So yeah, I am starting to worry a little bit about how secure this defence will carry on being. Bruno Guimaraes, dirty man. He picked up his 5th yellow card of the season. I think lucky not to pick up another 2 or 3 in that Arsenal game. But he will be suspended, I think, for this Game Week 12 after picking up his 5th yellow card. Wilson went off injured in this Champions League game as well. Isak's already out, so potentially that means Anthony Gordon as the striker perhaps. A lot of question marks here with injuries and suspensions. But Trippier probably still is the best defensive pick to go for if you do want to spend the 5.5 or if you've got him already. 10 points for the game week, 7 against Arsenal and 3 against Dortmund. He's just crossed the 100 points mark. And again, a massive 20 bonus points for him. So he is very good. It's just whether or not you're starting to get a bit worried about the Newcastle defence like I am. You could go for the cheaper options of Lascelles at 2 million, but Botman could be fairly close. Or Livramento at 2.6 could be, again, a really good pick. If he plays in defence, fair enough, 2.6 million is a really good pick. Maybe he plays right back, Trippier plays left back. But then even if he plays higher up the pitch, if you can get a Newcastle winger for 2.6 million, I think that looks pretty good as well. Anthony Gordon, 3.5, I mentioned him. Got his goal against Arsenal. He's on 4 goals, 4 assists and 89 points, making him the 6th midfielder as of time of writing, which was Thursday. He could even end up as a striker for that Bournemouth game. He's done it before, but surely you'd think for game week 13, you'll have the normal strikers back. So just something to consider. Gordon at 3.5 could be good if he's playing striker against Bournemouth. But that is pretty much it for Newcastle for me. On to West Ham. A good 1-0 win against Olympiacos. Pretty much a full-strength lineup, apart from Fabianski in goal. Looked good. Good fixtures coming up as well. Forest at home, Burnley away. BAC, Crystal Palace, Tottenham, Fulham, Freiburg, Wolves, Liverpool. Does look pretty good up to about, I'd say, game week 15 or 16 for West Ham. I'm still not convinced on their defence, but I do think they've got some good attacking options. So Bowen at 5 million. As you know, I brought him in last week. Grabbed a goal, 9 points against Brentford. And then he started striker against Olympiacos, which is sort of becoming a bit of a regular occurrence now in midweek playing striker. I don't think he was convincing at striker. I think he does play better off the right, but you're not going to turn your nose up at it. I think he's a great hold. He's the 4th highest scoring player in the game and the 2nd highest scoring midfielder in the game with 8 goals and 3 assists. So I'm happy holding Bowen at the minute. James Ward-Prowse owners would be happy that they kept the faith if they did. 4.1 million, 11 points, an assist and 3 bonus against Olympiacos. So hopefully that's him back now, back on the bonus points and back assisting. It was just the 3 points against Brentford, so you might have been a bit disheartened there, but the upcoming run looks good, so he's probably an okay hold. Kudus at 4 million is interesting. He's been so good recently. A really great goal against Brentford, sort of a bicycle kick style goal. He's got 4 goals, 1 assist for the season, and he's started 3 games in a row now. The only thing I would say is that Premier League start against Brentford may have just been because of the Paqueta suspension. So there's no guarantee that he starts in this game week 12, but I'm pretty sure that all West Ham fans will want him starting for game week 12. And he deserves to start in my opinion, but it just depends whether or not Moyes feels the same way, because he is quite a defensive manager. But 10 points against Arsenal, 12 points against Brentford, just the 1 against Olympiacos, but I do think he's been very impressive. I'm not 100% sure that he starts the Forest game. So if I was going to get Kudus in, I think I'd probably just wait for game week 13, because then at least you've got the backup. If he doesn't start the Premier League game, he's going to play the European game. Like I said, not convinced about the West Ham defenders. But if I did go there, I would go Emerson at 2.4 probably first. And then Sofal at 2.6 million. I think there's not much in it between the two of them. Then non-European teams. So Chelsea, Spurs and Palace are the 3 that I'm going to go through. I still have got the majority of my team playing in Europe. But Spurs, Maddison went off injured against Chelsea. I had written we were still waiting for updates, but I've seen since then that he's been withdrawn from the England squad. So you'd have to think that that means he won't be playing Wolves. Surely you can't withdraw from the England squad and then play in the Premier League. So I think that's probably Maddison as a sell. We will obviously get early team leaks, or hopefully get early team leaks, because I think that Spurs are the first game of game week 12. I'll just double check that as well. Wolves Spurs is 12:30, so you'll get team leaks. But I just think with Spurs' injury problems at the minute, I'll probably move Maddison on, and I'm not too convinced how they'll... If you've got a Son, for example, I'm not overly convinced that he does that well without Maddison, so I would be looking to make changes there. Chelsea... Man City's going to be a tough one, but Cole Palmer at 2.8 million cannot be ignored. 12 points against Spurs, goal and an assist. He's on 3 goals, 5 assists for the season. And from about game week 14, I think, that's when I'll be really interested in him, because they've got City in the next game, which is going to be tough. Newcastle away in 13. Again, it's going to be a tough game. But game week 14, that's the one where you've got the Premier League double game week. And they've got Brighton and Man United, which, while they are tough games, Brighton's defence and Man United's defence haven't been solid. So, and then after those tough ones, Everton, Sheffield United, Newcastle in the Cup, Wolves and Crystal Palace. Even Newcastle in the Cup, Chelsea don't seem to be rotating that much in the Cup, so... I think from definitely game week 14 and 15, Palmer could be a shout. And then one thing is I wouldn't get fooled by that Jackson hat-trick by any stretch. The tough fixtures for Chelsea coming up don't fill me with confidence with him. And obviously that high line from Spurs with 9 men was just a joke. So I think they pretty much gifted him that hat-trick. So I wouldn't be going there. Last but not least, Palace... Everton, Luton, the next 2. Then West Ham and Bournemouth, again in 14, look good. So I think Eze, he's back from injury, got an assist in just 32 minutes off the bench in the last one. And he just absolutely smashes it for bonus. So he will be someone that I'd actually consider bringing in, I think, from, or maybe quite soon, potentially. We'll see. But I do think he's a really good pick at 3.6. And then Anderson, potentially, if you're just looking for a quick stopgap in your defence, and 3 million is the budget you've got to go with. Everton looks good at home. Luton away looks okay. West Ham, Bournemouth both look good in game week 14, so he could be considered. Palace do have the most clean sheets in the Premier League with 5, tied with Arsenal and Newcastle. Right, on to my team update. So if you've enjoyed the video so far, please do drop a like below. Let us know how many points you got this game week. I got 130 this week, which I am pretty pleased with. That's taken me from 143rd to 96th overall. Obviously, I've played my Park the Bus chip already, which got me sort of like an additional, I think it was 62 points, I think it was. So there is that to consider, but 1,202 points in total. Johnston in goal got me 9 points. Again, he's just providing so much for the price. Tsimikas was a transfer in, no appearance or no start against Luton, and a 45-minute mess up in that last game, which he's been a bit of a flop for me. Delo, 8 points. I took that Fulham clean sheet all day long. That was brilliant. But then again, conceded, 4 goals against Copenhagen, so not great. Matty Cash, 3 points. Got that injury in the last game, and then just a bench appearance. So not great from the defence, but Delo getting me 8 was okay. Bowen, 10 points. Happy bringing him in. I think he's going to be a good long-term hold. Saka with 21 has been incredible. Anthony Gordon, I'll take the 10 points, even if it was against my own team. And then Phil Foden getting 18 points this game week. Again, really impressive. I think I had goals across my whole midfield. Midfield is looking strong. And then Watkins up front got me 12 points. He's been all right. I was getting a bit concerned, but that goal has sort of covered it all up for me. Salah, 5 points, is a disappointing one. And I know this was a week a lot of people played their 12th man to get some of the strikers in, but actually really it was only Haaland who massively delivered again. So Haaland got me 32 points with the armband on, but there were a few disappointing 12th mans with Alvarez, Salah, Rashford, all not doing great this week. So yeah, it's a tough one to choose when to play these boosters. But transfer plans then. So, well, my last moves that I made were pretty ineffective, to be honest with you, in the short term at least. I did Tsimikas and Bowen in for Burn and Trippier. Burn for Tsimikas, nothing really in it. Tsimikas got 2 points. Burn got 1 point and an injury, so he would have had to been transferred out anyway. But then Trippier got the clean sheet against Arsenal. And then Bowen got the goal against Brentford and done pretty well. So overall, Tsimikas and Bowen got me 12 points. Burn and Trippier would have got me 11 points. So it's really wasn't much of a move. But I'm happy keeping Bowen. Tsimikas I'm getting a bit worried about. So my main issues this week. Tsimikas, I'm now not convinced that he starts the Brentford game. A really stupid mistake to give Toulouse the goal in the Europa League, and then not starting the Luton game and Gomez starting it at left back is alarming. I did see a lot of people saying that Gomez was given this game against Luton because of their aerial threat and he would be able to deal with the aerial attacks better than Tsimikas. Well, if that is the case, then I don't know a team that's better in the air than Brentford really at the minute. Brentford have got quite a long ball side, quite a direct side, and they have got a lot of attacking threat from these set pieces and long balls to Mbuemo, for example. So if that is the case, I think Gomez could end up starting again. Maybe it's in Tsimikas' favour that he just played the 45 minutes and came off, even though it was a bit of a drag-in. But yeah, I'm not convinced. So he is one of my issues this week. And then Liverpool do go on to face City the following week, plus a European fixture. Dalot, I'd probably be moving him on, or I think I'd probably be moving him on if it wasn't for Luton. And then Matty Cash, I'd even think about moving him on. He's been really, really good, but the Fulham game does look good on paper. But then Cash's fixtures defensively do look tough after that as well. So most of my issues revolve around this back three here. But I like to look at what the issues are and then what I really want. So my main wants this week, reluctantly, it's Bruno Fernandes back in. I'm worried about him. He's going to get a price rise. And then he plays Luton. And if he gets a price rise again, he's going to start getting away from me being able to reach him. I didn't mention, sorry, this team that I've got on the screen. It's worth, I think I've got 50 million. No. Sorry, let's reset that. So the team value is 50.2, but I've got 2.2 million in the bank. So I have got flexibility when it comes to these transfers. Bruno Fernandes, though, that 21-pointer, like I said, I think if he does well against Luton as well, he's going to get like a double price rise. And then he's going to start to get away from me. So Bruno is one of the main wants for me this week. Other than that, though, there's not much wrong with my midfield. Bowen, Saka, Gordon, Foden, all looks good. Watkins, Salah, Haaland, all looks good. All got good fixtures coming up. Bowen's got Forest, Saka's got Burnley, Gordon's got Bournemouth, Foden, Chelsea, Haaland, Chelsea, Salah, Brentford, and Fulham for Watkins. So the front 7 looks okay. The defence, not so much. But I do want Bruno Fernandes in this team. And I'm not willing to drop one of my strikers back for him. So it will be one of my midfielders that has to go. And then ideally what I'd like in defence would be Arsenal. Saliba at first. I think he's the cheapest and best option. And then even, I do like the look of a Arsenal double up in defence actually. So I can actually get Tsimikas and Cash out, or Tsimikas and Dalot out for Saliba and White. I did like the look of that, potentially going Arsenal double up. Their fixture run looks really good coming up. I think there's going to be plenty clean sheets coming from Burnley, Brentford, Lons, Wolves and Luton fixtures. But I feel like I need Bruno back in my team. So this is what I'm looking at. So that Arsenal double up, I could afford, but I couldn't get Bruno. So if I wanted to get really, I'd want to keep Dalot for Luton, ideally, and get Bruno back in for Gordon. But I can't make that work for budget. So basically, it's going to have to be Gordon out for Bruno Fernandes, which Gordon's been good for me. He probably still does good against Bournemouth, but the fixtures do look tough, and I just want Bruno for this game. So Gordon out for Bruno Fernandes, but then I couldn't quite make it work. If I brought Bruno in for Gordon, that would only leave me about 0.6 in the bank. No, sorry. If I'd brought in double Arsenal and kept Gordon, didn't bring in Bruno Fernandes, that would have left me 0.6. And then if I wanted to get Bruno later on, I'd have had to have dropped Watkins, which I don't really want to do. So this is the way I'm going to do it. Gordon out for Bruno and Dalot out for Saliba. Now, I don't want to take Dalot out ahead of Luton, but I really just want to get that Arsenal defender in there, and I want to get Bruno Fernandes in there and then hold them longer term. So that's the moves that I'm going to do. No waiting around for my next video to come out. That is what I'm set on. So Saliba in for Dalot and Bruno in for Gordon. Ideally, I would have liked to have moved Tsimikas on. Cash, I think, is good for one more week, but I just can't afford it. I could have done Cash to Zinchenko instead and Gordon to Bruno, but I just don't think, if you look at Zinchenko's minutes, he's not guaranteed. He doesn't play 90 minutes that often, and Tomiyasu's been really good. He did go off injured in the last game, but just Zinchenko doesn't seem to be nailed for 2. So if I get Saliba in there, he's pretty much always nailed for that Arsenal 2 games a week. So I think that looks pretty good. Tsimikas, I'm not happy holding him for now, but best case, he starts Brentford. Worst case, he doesn't and comes on, and I move him on next week. It's a single game week. I don't think it's the end of the world. So, yeah, the only downside is I think I might end up missing out on the low clean sheet, but then I would expect Saliba to at least match that. So, I think that's how I'm going to go. Captaincy, I'm going to go for Erling Haaland. I've got a lot of good potential captain picks when I do this as my team. Haaland, obviously. Salah against Brentford. Watkins at home to Fulham. Bruno to Luton. And even Saka or Bowen. Saka at Burnley. Bowen at Forest. I think there's so many good options, but I think I'm still going to just stick with Haaland at the minute. A lot of people ask me about max captain for a single game week, and I just don't really like it too much. I understand that it's going to help us choose the best captain that week rather than guessing. But I still think there'll be bigger swings in points playing it in a double game week. Like, if you do end up getting your captain pick wrong this week, unless it's like a hat trick or a brace or something like that, I don't think it's going to go massively wrong. But if you get it wrong in a double game week and there's a ton of goals or a really big swing in points, I feel like it's going to be more effective that week. It doesn't always work out like that, but that's just my thoughts on it. So yeah, that's how I'm gonna line up. Captaincy on Haaland, Anthony Gordon. Thank you for the memories, but Bruno is back in, and then Delo out reluctantly with that Luton game, and Saliba in. I'm happy with Saliba, and then long term, we've got the international break coming up, but I would probably then look to try and maybe get another Arsenal defender in there. Move Tsimikas out, but there probably will have to be a downgrade somewhere else. But that is how I'm lining up for Game Week 12. Thank you very much for watching. Please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are not already. And do check out the Dream Team Tonic podcast. The link will be in the description below. Thanks for watching. Good luck in Game Week 12. Goodbye.